In the high country of Colorado, where the Rocky Mountains stretch against the sky in jagged white crowns, stands a sprawling white structure with red gabled roofs and a reputation that has outlived its builders. The Stanley Hotel was born in optimism at the dawn of the 20th century, a monument to wealth, invention, and the American idea that one man's vision could raise a palace on a mountainside. Yet, for all its bright beginnings, the hotel has been followed ever since by whispers of ghosts in its halls, strange footsteps in its stairwells, and a sense that some of the guests never checked out. The story begins with Freelan Oscar Stanley, better known as F.O. Stanley. He made his fortune co-inventing the Stanley Steamer, a steam-powered automobile that seemed for a time destined to outpace gasoline engines. Stanley's wealth bought him comfort, but not health. Tuberculosis stalked his lungs, and doctors advised him to move west to the thin air of Colorado. In 1903, he and his wife Flora arrived in Estes Park, a remote mountain community where the air was sharp and the peaks glowed pink in the sunset. By 1907, Stanley had not only regained his strength, but also decided to invest in the region. He built a grand hotel to rival the East Coast resorts he knew, hoping to bring luxury to the wilderness. The Stanley Hotel opened in 1909, a gleaming retreat with electric lights, telephones, ensuite bathrooms, and a fleet of Stanley steamer cars to shuttle guests from the train depot. It was elegance transplanted into the Rockies, drawing the wealthy and well-connected. Its architecture looked like New England, transplanted onto a mountainside, with wide verandas, airy ballrooms, and sweeping views of snow-capped peaks. Flora filled the hotel with music, playing piano in the grand lobby, her notes echoing across polished floors. For a time, it seemed like a monument to life, recovery, and success. But behind the shining windows and laughter of guests, stories began to accumulate. Servants whispered of doors opening and closing on their own. Guests complained of voices when no one was there. And over the decades, long after F.O. Stanley himself passed in 1940, the hotel developed a reputation not only as a monument of wealth, but as a gathering place for the dead. One of the most enduring tales is that of Flora Stanley herself. Staff and visitors alike have claimed that in the quiet of the night, the hotel's grand piano still plays. Some describe hearing a single note plucked, as if by an unseen hand. Others report full melodies drifting through the halls, only to find the piano lid closed and the room empty. For many, it is as if Flora has never left her beloved instrument, still filling the hotel with the music she adored. F.O. Stanley is said to linger as well. Dressed in his trademark suit and bowler hat, he has been spotted by employees and guests in the lobby, watching over his creation with a proud, spectral air. Tour guides tell of photographs where his figure appears faintly in the background, a founder unwilling to let go of the mountain palace he built from his fortune and his second chance at life. Other ghosts, less gentle, have made their presence known. Room 217 is the most infamous. In 1911, a chambermaid named Elizabeth Wilson entered the room to light acetylene lanterns during a power outage. A leak caused an explosion that tore through the room, blasting her through the floor into the hallway below. Remarkably, she survived, though with broken bones and injuries that took months to heal. She eventually returned to work at the hotel. Today, guests claim her spirit still lingers. Couples report that their luggage has been neatly unpacked while they were away. Others swear they've felt a sudden presence hovering over the bed, or the sense of someone tucking them in for the night. Elizabeth, it seems, never left her post. Room 418 has been called one of the most haunted as well, with guests reporting the laughter of children running and playing in the dark hours. Footsteps patter across the floorboards when the room is otherwise empty. In other areas, disembodied voices, flickering lights, and the sound of old-time music fill the air, One security guard told of chasing what he thought was a trespasser into the ballroom, only to find the room completely empty, the chandeliers swinging as if someone had just left. The Stanley Hotel's reputation for hauntings might have remained local lore had it not intersected with fiction. In 1974, author Stephen King checked into the nearly empty hotel during the off-season. He and his wife Tabitha were the only guests in a cavernous building that felt more like a mausoleum than a retreat. King wandered the halls, his imagination feeding on the silence, the echo of his own footsteps, the way the vast dining room felt abandoned. That night, he dreamed of his young son running through the corridors, pursued by a fire hose that came alive like a snake. King woke in a sweat, the seed of a novel planted. From that stay came The Shining, a story that would cement the Stanley Hotel's place in American haunted lore. Though the film version of The Shining used a different hotel for its exterior shots, the association stuck. Fans of the novel, horror enthusiasts, and ghost hunters flocked to Estes Park, eager to stay in the place that inspired the Overlook Hotel. The Stanley embraced the connection, hosting horror film festivals, ghost tours, and seances. Paranormal investigators set up cameras and recorders, emerging with clips of faint voices, orbs of light, and strange figures. Skeptics pointed to drafts, old pipes, and suggestible imaginations, yet even skeptics admitted the atmosphere was difficult to ignore. In 2016, the Stanley announced plans for a film center dedicated to horror, further embracing the identity that history and Stephen King had given it. Today, it thrives not only as a historic hotel, but as one of the most famous haunted locations in America. Wedding parties share space with ghost hunters. Tourists come for the view and leave with stories they cannot explain. Walk its halls today, and you may notice the way the light shifts strangely in old mirrors. You may hear a door latch behind you, though no one else is in the corridor. You may feel the air grow cold in the stairwell or see, just at the edge of vision, the figure of a man in early 20th century clothes, nodding as though welcoming you to a house that belongs equally to the living and the dead. The Stanley Hotel was built as a monument to recovery, to wealth, and to life reclaimed in the mountain air. But over a century later, it is remembered most as a monument to the thin line between the living and the departed. Whether it is Flora's music, Elizabeth's careful tidying, or a shadow in the ballroom that disappears when you enter, the stories remain. And like the mountains themselves, they are not likely to fade. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. Subscribe for more true stories, if you dare.